into the online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey there, Jessica Jones fans. Welcome back to AfterBuzz TV for the Jessica Jones After Show. I'm your host, aka Zach Wilson, and I'm very excited to talk about these two episodes. We're talking about episodes 3 and 4 of Jessica Jones. It's called Whiskey and 99 Friends. Before we get started and I introduce my fantastic panel, once again, a reminder to you guys, this is a spoiler-free zone, so no discussion of any episodes past episode 4.
I was going to say, we can't talk about 1 and 2 at all?
No, I know episodes past 3 and 4.
You cannot reference anything that happened in past episodes.
In the past, nothing.
So, yes.
How can we talk about Kilgrave at all?
Okay, with that out of the way, and that applies to the chat, to the YouTube comments, to iTunes comments, everything. Please keep it clean, just so that everybody has a chance to watch the show at their own pace. Yeah. So let me introduce my panel. Right to the left of me.
Ooh, I like the bi-directional. I'll take it. I'm the Internet Soapbox Mark, a.k.a. The Drunk One. You can follow me on Twitter at SoapboxMark.
And I am Emma Fife, a.k.a. the girl on this panel, I guess. And you can follow me all over the internet at Emma Fife, which is my name.
I'm Jesse Klein, a.k.a. Also Jesse Klein. And you can find me on Twitter and everything else at JessKlein1. That's JessKlein, the number 1.
All right, guys, let's dive into this episode. These two episodes, yeah. a lot to cover. We got some big development from Luke, from the Hope storyline, some twists at the end of episode 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's kick off with Luke Cage, because that's where we came into episode 3, as we sort of dealt more with the fact that there are two more power people living in Hell's Kitchen.
Right.
What did you guys think about how we were introduced to Luke's power?
I mean, at the end of the last episode, when he used the buzzsaw on his skin to be like, look, my skin doesn't break. I'm awesome. That was amazing. And I love that they just both, dove right into it. They're like, I'm indestructible. You're super strong. Let's just get it on again.
Some super boning.
Fly into the bone zone.
Yeah.
But I would like to point out, Jesse, that you got your wish.
So excited. So quick. It was I was like, I can't believe it. I paused it and was like, I can't believe that just happened. Resume.
Can we all together?
Sweet Christmas.
Yeah. Oh man, that was so awesome.
Yeah.
And what a place to say
I know.
It feels correct.
Yeah.
My entire life, I feel like I've needed that to be when Sweet Christmas was said, and I'm happy that I'm alive for it.
Yeah. I really liked sort of. And it made it more painful later when Jessica ultimately did go to Luke's apartment and was like, I can't come in. I can never come in again. I enjoyed sort of the bonding between the two of them, in the midst of all the sex scenes, which were also great. But they were showing the two of them sort of connecting on just, being part of this weird sort of screwed up world of having superpowers. And both of them, I think, are characters who try to just kind of exist rather than going the full-on superhero route. And so I really liked seeing those scenes between them.
It was the first time it seemed like the first time they actually got to be completely vulnerable to another person.
Yeah.
And it made them that much more endearing.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And the scene outside the food truck.
It was great.
That was really
the food
fun.
truck scene was really fun.
It was so good.
Just how'd you get them? Accident? Yours? Scientific experiments? Okay.
Cool. Moving on.
It's like you would expect them to both turn to the wide shot and be like, We did it. Anyway, congrats. Back to the plot.
I really liked the way that the performances, as they're sort of revealing it, like right at the top.
Yeah.
With everything, just down to the struggle as he like tries to push his hand and like it shakes just a little bit, and he just that little smile across his face, like, oh, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah. It was fun. Like, I don't know. I really bought the two of them as sort of a realistic pseudo couple at the beginning of a relationship, maybe sort of getting to know each other. I don't know. It felt very realistic to me.
May I say, the ultimate power couple?
Yeah.
I'm going to push you out of a car.
Well done. Well done.
My life has been leading up to this moment.
Yeah, I like it because they're for being superheroes or people with superpowers, they're both very broken people.
Yeah.
And like, so that they found each other. Like, this isn't like the most healthy relationship in the world by far, but it's what works for these two characters.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of they've dived a little bit more into that in this episode, is the idea of like gifted, as we're calling it here, does not mean you have to lead this superhero life.
Exactly.
Like Jessica says that she tried it once and like it wasn't for her.
Yeah.
And Luke is just, he's like, I protect what's mine.
Yeah.
Like, because that's all.
Which to Luke Cage's origins, he was in Heroes for Hire, which was basically if you wanted a superhero to help you, you had to pay them.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like he was being heroic for free. He was getting paid to be a superhero. Like,
well, it just speaks to a sort of the inner city upbringing, and I think that's why a lot of people connected to Luke Cage, because he was a unique story, especially at the time. Nobody was telling that story of people who were these people who with powers who were still impoverished. Like, they never dove into the fact that, like, well, how does like Captain America make money?
Yeah.
Like, he maybe is not the best example because he's usually working with S.H.I.E.L.D. or the government, and they sort of like give him a room to stay in.
Yeah.
But a lot of these heroes, like, how do they just put food on the table? If you're spending all day, weeks at a time, fighting crime, but no one knows who you are, you're not getting paid for it.
Well, I think that's why a lot of early superheroes are just like, millionaire Max Dandrill is also the Catman. And it's just like he has powers of a cat, but he's also a millionaire, so he does whatever he wants.
Yeah,
like it's that thing,
like a Friskies alternative CEO or something like that.
Yeah,
no one would ever suspect it.
Yeah. But yeah, so like having these regular folks who
just happen to be superpowered,
different
and
strokes.
It's like, and like regular people, like there are things that about Jessica that are not so good, and there are things that about her where she does want to do the right thing. Her motivations with Hope are she doesn't want this girl. If this girl gets prosecuted, it means that everyone thinks that she is found guilty. Everyone thinks that she's guilty of killing her parents, and she doesn't want that to be the truth. And so, like, that's part of her motivation. Yes, she wants to stop Kilgrave, but also she wants to make sure that an innocent person doesn't go to prison.
Yeah.
I thought she said her parents were killed in an accident, no?
No, I'm Hope's.
Oh,
Hope's parents,
sorry.
Yeah, Jessica's parents were killed in an accident.
Yeah, I was just looking at the chat roll. For those of you guys joining us live, thank you for tuning in. It's one of our listeners. It's who is it? It's somebody's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday,
Casey! Happy birthday, Casey!
Happy birthday, Casey!
Happy birthday,
Thank you for coming.
And traces of my lipstick, because it's their first time commenting here at AfterBuzz.
Oh, nice!
Thanks for joining us. Luke and Jessica are my OTP.
Yay!
One true
I mean, that's a
pairing.
classic.
It is definitely a classic
in the comic
pairing.
book
It's
world.
well known in the comic book world. So
Yeah. But so what they're dealing with is,
and Luke is also like saying, I don't stick my neck out. Like that's not the most like classic super heroic thing. Like that's not what you expect when you like think about like a superhero, but it's a real person who eventually does choose to do the right thing. Now I think that's what makes these people heroic, and I think almost makes them more heroic than like a Superman or anyone like that, because Superman doesn't have a choice usually. His character is just he is heroic, and that's what he does.
He's burdened with heroicism.
Yeah. Cage
What a terrible
Cage
thing to live with.
Cage has a choice.
Yeah.
And the fact that he makes that choice, I think, makes him even
Yeah.
more heroic because
Yeah.
he has to make that choice, and it's not just who he is.
And there's definitely a parallel there too, I think, between Cage and Jessica Jones, where, you know, at the end of the first episode of the pilot episode of this, we saw her make the choice to stay and be the hero because
Yes.
it's all about protecting what you believe in, not necessarily just the greater good.
Yeah.
And that's interesting and more human than just your kind of, I'm a superhero and I do what's right all the time, even if it doesn't benefit me specifically.
And we see a little bit with Betsy
Yeah.
that she's like when things are wrong, Betsy must correct them, even if it's putting her neck out and like getting attacked, as we see later in the episode. But like she was like, no, we can't just let this guy go around taking advantage of people. Like she obviously has like a clear sense of justice as well.
You're saying Patsy.
Patsy,
Yeah.
As in Trish.
As in Trish.
I thought you
Yeah.
said Betsy.
He
I'm
said,
like,
he said Betsy.
I did say Betsy. I meant Patsy.
I figured
It's
you meant Patsy.
P's and B's are very similar. if
They
you look
are.
at them.
just to clarify.
Yes,
for
that got me
anyone
for a second.
Who's like
Trish.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's
Trish.
all good.
So, and
Patricia.
I was just giggling. Lemrick in chat said that Luke Cage once stole the Fantastic car to fly to Latveria to collect $20 from Doctor Doom. So I just giggled at that. And
I
if you know what that
totally
book
believe
is,
it.
please
I
post
wanna-
it in the
I
chat.
wanna
Yeah, I would
bet
love
Dr.
to read
Doom
that.
lost.
It's like, what the hell?
yeah.
Sorry to throw it off.
No, that's funny.
So
Patsy, not Betsy.
Yeah.
And by Patsy, I mean Trish.
Trish.
So,
So they did call her Patsy several times throughout this
Yes.
episode. We started to see a little bit of her backstory, I think, like just
Previous
little
life.
little
Yeah, she had
hints
a-
of her previous life when she had red hair.
she
right
had a
at.
show like she was a child star.
Yeah, that was my understanding. Was
or
she was like
something.
probably like a teeny bopper variety show
Yeah.
child star.
well, this was sort of they're building a little bit more of this, the superhero-ness of this world.
yeah.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that for a second, because especially while we're talking about Luke and Jessica, they have a whole conversation about it. As like they discover like the first person they know firsthand that has powers, because everyone since I guess. Well, this is the interesting thing about the
The
Marvel
green guy?
universe.
The green guy,
Since
yeah.
the green guy,
Or
in
the guy
incident.
wearing a flag.
Well, like, because Captain America was in the 40s, but a lot of people, I guess, in this universe could chalk that up to myths of the war, propaganda.
Propaganda, yeah.
He's not real. He's he, especially because he was on tour for a
He was
while.
a symbol.
Like,
He was just a symbol.
yeah, or like the footage, but there was footage of him, and they're like, "Oh, it was faked" or whatever.
Yeah.
You could, it was one man, and it was in the 40s, and it was forgettable.
And then
Yeah.
Iron
But-
Man.
yeah,
is
Iron
like-
Man is 2008.
And also, like, he's not super powered. He has a suit.
Yeah.
Like you could logically like I feel like Iron Man fits in the real world a lot easier than the Hulk does.
Yeah. well,
Just because like a super powered
Yeah.
suit, like it's not that far off.
If I
No,
heard
it's
tomorrow, ignoring like my knowledge of Iron Man, if I
Yeah.
heard tomorrow that the government had invented an exosuit for soldiers that could do most of the things that the Iron Man suit can do, I'd be like, I mean, that's a crazy leap in technology,
Right.
but it's not outside the
right,
realm
but
of
it
possibility.
checks out. Whereas
Yeah.
it's much more crazy to have, these characters who have super strength, or like in the case of Thor, come from another planet. It's a lot more. It forces you to suspend your disbelief a little bit more than simply with like an Iron Man.
So that's sort of the interesting thing about the Marvel Universe that we sort of overlook as fans of this genre, is that the people of this world, like on the street level, which does include Jessica and Luke,
Yeah.
aren't used to this. It's only been around for 7 years in even the tiniest hint, or 6 years, I guess, since the Hulk came on the scene for Incredible Hulk, and then the incident. 5 years ago was the Avengers?
I think so. Yeah, that sounds
and we're
right.
sort of, if we assume that this is in following in real time, and Jessica Jones is in 2015.
Yeah. Then also,
we were assuming we don't have anything.
Yeah, we still
We
don't
don't
know
know
it
for
because
sure,
Daredevil
but-
wasn't.
yeah.
Because Daredevil was just a year after.
Yeah, but if we assume,
We still don't
even
know.
if it's before, then it's
Yeah.
even less time for
we
people
know
to
they
process
at least
that.
know about the Hulk and
Yeah,
Captain
it's-
America.
They name dropped the incident in these last
Yes.
episodes.
Yeah.
I just don't
Yeah.
remember what part.
Yeah.
But I like to that point of that world. That's kind of what these series are doing for this. It's like, oh, here's what the world. Here's how the world at large reacts, as instead
Yeah.
of being just so super centered on the main stuff that's happening.
I was going to say, I think that that's something that they've done incredibly well, particularly with the Netflix series, is kind of giving you the scope of how real people are living in this world where these incredible things are happening.
I wish there was just like a little hint of something like where like in Luke Cage's bar there's like an Ultron robot that
Yeah.
he killed.
It's like a head.
I agree.
just like a head that he ripped off when like Ultron
Yeah.
was like flying around.
Especially because, like, in the Alias comics, you know, they reference the Avengers so much. I mean, you know, you see Cap and you see Ant-Man. So I'm with you. Like, I would like just like a little more reference,
Yeah.
like very specifically to the rest of the MCU.
Yeah, I guess that's the sort of the difference in what this is.
Yeah.
And we touched on it a little bit in the last podcast, but the book is such a different. It's the same character, and it's very
Absolutely.
much.
Oh,
and the
it's
series
totally-
is very much inspired by the book.
Absolutely.
It's tonally the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's a
100%.
completely new story,
Yes.
which is great as fans because, like, I would have liked to see an adaptation of that, but I
Yeah.
also am like more than happy to get a new story.
Right.
And because the character is the same, it doesn't feel like it's been ruined.
No, I
Yeah.
completely
It's like
agree.
it's not a situation where it's like, oh yeah, we have a new take on the character, and like
No.
the story's completely different. Like this is Jessica Jones
Yeah.
from the comic books.
Yeah, it definitely
It's-
feels like it's just a story about a different story about the same
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
And Bendis has said that like his original Alias book was sort of like this like tour of the Marvel universe and like
Yeah.
look through it. Jessica Jones, this is the TV show is an intimate story about this character.
Exploration of the character, yeah.
It's not about like reaching out into the world. So, but it's nice that like to name check the incident and stuff like that to
Yeah.
keep us in that world. But and I know this is jumping ahead a little bit, but I think it's warranted in this part of the conversation. In episode 4, we got a big part of the world's reaction to the gifted or enhanced people.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very like the whole storyline with Miss Eastman
Yes.
was creepy and sort of terrifying and very on point in today's society about just unfounded hatred.
Yes, and like also kind of reminded us about how like in the Avengers they did not shy away from showing that while they were saving New York, a lot of people were dying. It was not a successful, like, yes, Tony Stark stopped a nuclear bomb from destroying New York. Yes, they stopped the entire, invasion, but it was not a successful round. Like, a lot of people died in New York, and that there was a lot of destruction. And so like kind of reminding us, like, her mom was destroyed or was like covered in a bunch of debris and died when a building got destroyed. Like, there were a lot of people who were affected in a very negative way when the invasion happened.
I mean, it's one of the
Yeah.
space whales, like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to call them. I think they were.
That's
It's-
I think they
I think
were.
Space Whale's pretty
I think they were
accurate.
called Leviathans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Leviathan. Yeah.
Which is actually that's very confusing in the Marvel universe. But anyway, either way, the space whales.
Yeah.
One of them crashed into Grand Central Terminal.
Yeah. Well, people were there.
Yeah, well, and like it was the way they shot it was mostly empty, but like there's no way it didn't kill a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And this is where they can address that, like because of who the audience is for the Avengers, you can't really get into that
Right.
on in those movies. But I like that they're addressing it.
Yeah.
that it's not just like, oh, people died, whatever, we're moving on.
Yeah, I do too. And I like the way that it was brought up and then led into the conversation that Jessica had afterwards with Ms. Eastman. I mean, where she basically is a freak out, but her points are very valid, where basically she's like, oh, you lost your parents in this, incident. congratulations, everyone's lives are hard. My parents died in a random accident. You don't see me going around trying to murder every bad driver.
Yeah.
Which that speaks to, I think, what you were touching on there, Zach, that like it was a message about the kind of unfounded hatred that people have and this bias that they have against people simply because they remind them of something else. It actually sort of echoes what the neighbor said to Jessica when he found Malcolm, the drug addict neighbor, like trying to get in his apartment, and then he was trying to help him into his own apartment, and he basically said, everyone's a little bit racist, basically saying that we're inclined to make snap judgments about people based on their appearances or things we know about other people who are in their profession or look like them, etc. It's something to overcome, which I thought that was a really sweet way to end that, with him being like, I probably am judging him a little, but I'm working on it.
Both those actors, the people above,
The neighbor.
They're so great.
they're really good. They're so weird.
Yeah, I got like not yelled at, but like somebody on Twitter was like, "Why didn't you guys talk about the neighbor?" Ran out of time.
Yeah.
Super weird.
Yeah.
Very weird.
But I did enjoy the fake out in the early episodes, like where you think it's like these like angry adult like couple who are just like he's cheating on her or something, so she's throwing things at him. It's like, no, it's just two siblings.
Too
like
weird.
Then him
Siblings.
popping his head in after the bone and going, "Hey, you guys are pretty loud."
Yeah.
well, he totally
My sister says you guys are too loud.
he had a crush on Jessica.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is, he didn't seem crushed or defeated. He was just like,
Okay.
I have something to
Oh,
say."
I saw it. I thought he looked. I thought he looked super sad.
Then I figured he would have just like turned and walked away instead of having to say his actual piece.
Yeah.
Because then his sister would have got mad at him.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
yeah, I
did you
think-
tell him no, they were boning? Why did you say something?
Because he's big.
Like that's the true season 2 of Jessica Jones is just a series about them during the events of Jessica Jones.
About the neighbors.
Just
Yeah.
everyone in the building like holding on to things.
Oh God!
I would watch a show about the neighbors for sure. I love them.
Oh my god! But the
Marvel's the neighbors.
just to get into the dirty stuff a little bit, like the sex
Folks,
between those two,
Turn down
like
your lights. Get out a warm bottle of
Yeah.
port.
Get an e-cigarette,
Yeah.
yes,
rose hip flavored.
I wish I
talk
wish I
about-
could just like throw on a robe and
A
like
robe
a
and-
smoking
yeah.
pipe.
I'll
every
bring
now-
a velvet jacket and a cigar. I don't give a damn.
But just the way that production design was handled for that scene, I wanted to address it because
No, sorry, just the bed.
Yeah.
Oh, in the
Just keep
bedroom.
going.
Yeah.
And
Sorry,
they just
continue.
don't even react. I mean, they have a moment where it's like, okay, that just happened. And then they're like, nah, whatever.
It was more of a awesome. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if anyone's been on a bed that's broken midway, it's a very strange moment to go through.
Yeah.
It's usually not because of superpowers.
Usually,
it's a bad
Usually.
Usually.
Usually it's because you've had an IKEA corkboard bed for 6 years.
Oh, that's creepier. The neighbors are named Robin and Reuben.
Yeah. Ruben.
It's creepier. Sorry. Anyway, back to the bone.
But what I was saying, the production design in that scene, like the bed was a fun moment, but like it was little things that almost could have gone unnoticed, like when they hit against a pipe, they come away and the
Yeah.
pipe is it's bent
It's
and,
bent,
and dented, and it just it shows how much they're not holding back, and
Yeah.
for the first time, because they're breaking stuff.
Yeah.
Because neither one of them has ever had that option
Yeah,
of
they-
just, I can go at this person with everything I've got. And I think you see it on Luke's face after.
Yeah.
Especially at the very end, we're just like, wow, I never thought I'd do that in
Look,
my
I
life.
apologize for the graphicness of this conversation, but like when she's riding
content
him,
of the
show.
he's just like, you just like
Yeah.
went so like he's like,
What
I've
the
never
crap?
had that happen before.
When I
She was
thought,
jackhammering.
Amazing.
and it went further. I thought when she was grabbing the siding, that
Yeah.
it was just going to totally rip
Rip
it
off.
off.
I thought that too.
I was like, missed opportunity. But that's fine.
I think
Yeah.
it like moved a little bit, but I don't think they.
Or there would
broke
at
it
least be
off.
like grooves in it.
Yeah. Oh, if it was like fingers.
Just like, yeah, like from her fingernails.
Holy crap.
I love that we have AfterBuzz so that we can have these conversations.
I mean, I don't know if we've ever seen
Thanks, Maria.
superpower sex.
Superpower
before.
sex.
Not on camera.
Definitely
but
not on this
not
level.
not in movement. I mean, definitely in the pages.
Yeah, in
but-
comics, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Sweet Christmas.
Sweet Christmas.
All right, lots more to cover.
Yeah, sure.
Any other thoughts? Well, there was the moment before we go away from Luke, where he says that he knows that she's hiding something, and this is sort of where we get, because in the episode we found out why she was stalking him,
Right.
And it wasn't that she knew she had powers. It wasn't for a case. It was that she unwillingly murdered his wife.
Yeah.
Was that his wife? I don't.
He said wife.
Yeah,
Did he
he
say
said it
wife?
was.
Oh.
Can't handle a dead wife.
Okay, yeah,
that's
right.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
dead wife. Yeah. I mean, this is a really screwed up situation because, like, he's got to find out eventually that she killed his wife, and knowingly, like, entered a relationship with him, with that type of knowledge, like that. I don't know. I would be very angry, and like, especially since he also like talks about like he doesn't like my mind. I know what I'm thinking, but like you can't know what I'm like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't believe in like a Kilgrave type thing, and it's like
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Like, as a powered person, to actively not believe that person is out there. Because I feel like,
well, you just put a saw against your chest.
I know.
Like,
But
Yeah.
that's physical.
Right.
Yeah.
that is a difference, though, because hardened skin is just what we have enhanced to the next level. Super strength is what we have enhanced to the next level. Now you have Hulk and Thor running around, so sort of in a lot of people's minds, all bets are off.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess in Luke's like personal experience, what he has seen with his own two eyes, it's only been extremes of what is real.
Right. It's been physical powers rather than like mental manipulation kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was very weird that he kind of dismissed it so quickly, and he was like, "I believe that you believe someone like that exists," and it's like, man, she's a super. You've got those powers.
Yeah.
Like, you should at least entertain the possibility.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it comes into play during the radio show
Yeah.
moment.
It's as Trish says, it's naive to rule out the possibility of it existing.
Yeah, but I like that we're getting that theme. Like,
Yeah.
like I like that we're talking about this is like in the thematic like element of the show. Like, this is going to be something I think we talk about like throughout the as we examine the series, is how people are handling powered people. Like, we see it, we're dealing with it more directly on S.H.I.E.L.D. right now,
Right.
Yeah.
with the Inhumans. But one thing that I really like about the way they're handling it in terms of that and mutants, because that's the comparison.
Yeah. Oh, you had a cough.
yeah.
You had a real quick cough.
Yeah.
There was a cough.
But they're not the regular people are not separating the two. It doesn't matter where the powers came from.
Right,
It is
right.
just fear of powered people. There's no like, oh well, that person's got power from an accident.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's the classic X-Men storyline. I don't
Yeah.
know if I can even say that. I just wanted to
do it when you cough.
Oh, no! I thought your cough sounded like copyright infringement. That's weird. But yeah, it's the us versus them mentality that we've seen in comics all the
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah.
it's
But that's
in a
what's
great way.
Just a little brief aside, I don't know if you guys saw this, but the Fantastic Four sequel got canceled, and Fox is talking about giving movie rights back to Marvel.
Then we could see
That would
Luke
be-
Cage steal the Fantastic
Right.
Car and head to Latveria.
$20.
Just beat the crap out of Doctor Doom.
And get us $20 back.
I'd heard about the cancellation. I hadn't heard about that rumor.
There was
Yeah.
there was like one thing where it's like apparently lawyers are in talks.
Cool. I mean,
We've done all we could do. Good.
there were rumors for a little bit based real quick before we get back, that because Disney let them do the X-Men TV shows,
Yeah.
that was the deal. It's like, okay, because they didn't have to.
Right.
They only had X-Men film rights.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you can do the live action X-Men TV shows, but we want Fantastic Four back
Ooh.
as like a trade.
And they have Spiderman back too.
Spiderman. Spiderman?
Spiderman.
Spiderman?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Spiderman. He's
Yeah.
got the powers of a
Yeah.
speeder.
Yeah.
He goes thwipe, thwipe, thwipe when he fires his weebs. I don't want to see how
I'm losing my mind. I legitimately didn't catch that. I was not playing dumb. All right.
and me.
Back to Jessica Jones.
Yes.
Let's move on from Luke and talk about the other person she's close to right now, Trish.
God.
This is the thing about Trish in episode 3 when they did the radio broadcast and she went off on Kilgrave. I just felt like I related to that so much because I feel like if I were in a situation where I was surrounded by these very powerful friends, obviously Jessica is gifted, as they're calling it, and has been, and even Trish mentioned in the end of the last episode, like, you've been fighting my battles for too long. I'm going to be able to take care of myself now. So I thought it was very in character and something that I feel like I personally would have done, where I'm in a situation where my friend has been through this horrible thing, and now we have a chance to basically prove that it is possible. There is this person who's manipulating people and making them do awful things. It's kind of like Jessica says at the beginning of the episode. People use the excuse of, the devil made me do it. What if the devil really did make you do it?
Yeah.
So I just loved and hated simultaneously because I knew it was a terrible idea, but it was so great when Trish, just announced full-out war on Kilgrave.
And it was a really good,
Don't do it.
Yeah.
it was a really good character-defining moment
Yeah.
as well. You're like, oh, I see how this person fits in the superhero world.
Yeah.
Like, she has a sense of justice.
Yes.
And she is willing to put herself in danger because she's doing what she thinks is right.
Yes.
Well, here's the question, and sort of like somebody in the chat, I don't know who I'll call it, but the question is, was that a good decision? It was brave.
It was
very
absolutely
brave. But Boo in the chat just says, I thought Trish shouldn't have called out Kilgrave. That was a huge mistake. I'm not sure if I agree with her, but I'm torn because it was brave and it was powerful and it sent a message, but it was dumb.
It was dumb,
yeah.
to be sure.
It also had a chance of making Kilgrave angry enough that he would, it made him angry enough that he sent someone to kill her, and
Yeah.
she followed that guy back. It made Kilgrave. It eventually became a very smart decision,
Yeah.
because Jessica had a very brief confrontation with Kilgrave.
Yeah.
Very slow-mo confrontation.
But that it worked out does not mean that it was a good decision.
Well, it still has yet to be seen, because if it weren't for that radio broadcast, there wouldn't have been anybody to come out and go, oh, he's done that to me too.
Yeah.
So we don't know yet if that was a good decision or not when it comes to Hope's case, but as of right now, it seems positive.
Do you think that Trish needed to say that for the people to come forward,
Yeah,
as
I do.
opposed to
100%.
what they had
Absolutely.
done up to that point?
Yeah,
Yes.
I absolutely think so. I think that her giving a voice to it, and basically, when Hogarth basically threw Hope under the bus and was like, well, as you can see, my client's delusion is pretty highly developed. And Trish basically countering, being like, you're basically dismissing the possibility that this could be real. That's stupid. I think that her coming out and saying that she thought it was possible is what gave people, because it's like Jessica said, the people trust her, they listen to her, they love her. And I think that because she showed that she was in support of that is what ultimately drove people to come forward and say, this happened to me too.
Even just the guy who was like, he said he wanted my jacket.
Yeah.
Let me look at you. Oh God, here's measurements.
And I'm glad that guy acknowledged. He's like, I know this isn't what
worst
everyone
thing,
else,
yeah.
but
Yes.
it was.
It was a violation. It's still
Yeah.
a violation.
Yeah.
When someone makes you do something against your will, that's a violation.
It wasn't physical. I'm hesitating to use the word, but it's appropriate. It wasn't physical rape,
No.
but
Right.
it was mind rape.
Yeah.
And I apologize if that comes off insensitive. I don't mean it to be.
No. Yeah.
But it effectively is, because you've taken over this person's ability to choose
choose.
their
Yeah.
path. Yes, he wasn't physically harmed, but
Right.
it is not equal to, but it
That
is
feeling
very bad. It feels very horrible.
That feeling of not having control.
Yes.
is the feeling I think that they're really trying to push with these people, and with how Jessica talks. Like, you can see her reactions, and like when she has those kind of flashback moments of like feeling what it's like to not be able to decide. And I'd also like to really quickly point out that the actress who plays Hope, again, killing it when Kilgrave comes on the air, and you see her go through like this terror. Like, I watched that and I was like, oh my god, like that is so, again, like another really visceral reaction out of her. It was really, really good.
The different levels of PTSD that we're seeing, I think, are being portrayed relatively accurately.
Yeah.
And I like that they explained a little more. I mean, Jessica touched on it in a previous episode, but I like that they really delved into the idea that when you are under Kilgrave's control, you are still aware of you somewhere deep in the back of your mind, and you want to get out, but you don't want to get out because he makes you believe that you want to be doing what you're doing, even though on some level you are still aware you don't want to be doing these things.
That's what's even more scary about it. More than like as we discussed a little bit, like than a telepathic control where they physically make your body do something. This is your mind. He gives you a want that is not your own. And what Jessica's been she's been getting into, and they're sort of slowly touching on it, and I think we're going to get more and more throughout the series, is that idea of like, once that happens to you, once that infects you, even the guy with the coat, once that happens one time, how can you trust any thought that you have?
And we saw that with Officer Simpson.
Yeah.
Like 100% just like trying to get over it. Like, no, I need to make this right. Please, just everything.
Let's talk about Officer Simpson. Unless Jesse
found him.
Well, again, like, Jessica's found some really interesting ways to cheat Kilgrave's control by satisfying the parameters of what he's given her or given them, but by not actually doing it. So, like, you know, with him, she injects Trish with the thing so it looks like she's dead. So, like, Simpson's like, okay, I did my job, and he leaves.
Convinces him that he has jumped off the building, even for a moment, and if he doesn't believe it, he has satisfied the want. And so, like, I guess we got a little bit more. These episodes gave us more information on Kilgrave's power and the limits of it. Distance helps, we know that. Time helps, and it seems that after 10
hours,
10 hours, she
10
said
or 12
12. She said 10 hours, 12 at the most.
Okay.
That she's ever seen, I guess, is it
off.
wears off by that point.
Right.
That doesn't mean that it wears off psychologically, because
direct control.
Yes.
And especially we don't know how much it affected her, like having been under it for I don't know if it was 8 months again, like it was in the books, but however long Jessica was under his control, if that affects it as well, how long it takes to come down. But now we see that it also, if you fulfill the want, that can cleanse the effect.
And you can kind of monkey's paw the want. Like, if it's like something like, you know, where he says like exit that way, and she tricks him into thinking that he fell off the roof, then that works. Like, you can kind of find ways to like cheat whatever the thing he wants you to do.
Yeah, as long as you can make the person who has the want legitimately believe that they have satisfied the want, then you're good to go.
It's cool. That's a great, I like that twist on the power.
It's really it's a really cool way to kind of counter whatever he does. I hope that comes back more.
I really, really like the character of Officer Simpson a lot.
Me too.
I think he's such an interesting, he's going to be a really interesting psychological study, I think, of the after effects of being under Kilgrave's control, because you're dealing with somebody here who, and I loved the very specific story he told about being a kid and how the G.I. Joe story and how they were going to rescue his sister's Barbie but he actually set the dream house on fire, like not pretend on fire, he actually set it on fire, and so all of his
I mean,
G.I. Joes melted.
There has to be real peril, or the audience won't buy.
And there is a villain in the Marvel universe whose last name is Simpson, who has a military background,
as Will Simpson does.
His name is Nuke. You can look him up. He has an American flag tattooed on his face. All I'm saying is, if this Simpson ends up having like cybernetic parts or starts taking red, white, and blue pills, like, this is the character of Nuke. It's another Marvel character that's been brought in very cleverly.
Yeah.
He was part of the Weapon X program that like Deadpool and Wolverine were and Sabretooth were a part of.
Now it's getting legal, Harry.
well, what I'm saying is, like, he could be a part of like just like a shadowy.
He looks like a guy who
thing.
likes fish oil.
It could be that too, but
His hair does have a nice shine.
It
too.
does.
does,
It's pretty
yeah.
beautiful.
Nice shine.
It's gorgeous.
But I think he's a really interesting character where it's like he's really screwed up by what just happened. Like, he's never had anyone dominate him before.
Yes.
And so, like, to have that happen is really screwing with him. That fight where he fights Trish and then Jess, so brutal. Just like so incredibly brutal. And like, again, I think it's good for characterization of Trish, where like she's now feeling helpless again, even though she's been taking Krav Maga. That means she has to go further. She has to find a better way to defend herself.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting to watch that scene play out, because there was almost, and when it started, you could almost sense a sort of like excitement from her.
Right.
Like that
Yeah.
she's like, I get to use this training.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this mother effer down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it's just clear that like physically she cannot overpower this person,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
in this case it turns out that the guy she's fighting is military and
Yes,
is just
this is true.
physically much larger than her.
If he
And at a
just been
certain
a beat
point,
cop, she
She would've
probably
been
could have
fine.
taken care of him. But he's like a well-trained
Yeah.
killing machine.
Yeah.
And no cop from Daredevil.
Yeah.
No.
No cop from there.
I have to say, when he showed up at the door and she made the decision to open the door and she came in like ready to fight.
She had that
was
baton.
That was awesome, and it kind of speaks to what we mentioned, that if he'd been just a regular cop, I have no doubt she would have kicked his ass. It was
No.
just unfortunate
what do you-
that he already had this military background and was under Kilgrave's control and
Yeah.
was going to stop at nothing to satisfy the want. So, but I don't know. I liked that she saw this as an opportunity to be like, I am ready. I'm going to defend myself now. No one's going to fight my battles for me.
And then Jess had to fight.
Yeah,
his
I
battle.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, can't. This is rough.
And that's the thing is like, and then Jess follows him back to Kilgrave.
Yeah.
And we get the hero shot of Kilgrave finally.
I know.
I liked that he was just a bloke watching footy. That was
Yes.
pretty ridiculous.
just yelling at the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, come on! And
He has his family serving him food, and then like becoming this little maze of attackers.
yeah, and again we kind of see, like, I feel like we're getting some, like, I wish we had some consistency on Jess's power, just because in the comics she's like resistant to damage, can heal very quickly, but also like resistant to damage, like can take a lot of hits.
Yeah.
And like in this, it's like it seemed like she was kind of getting pushed around, and like I wish there was like some sort of consistency that we could figure out. I don't think they're ever going to show it, like give us a consistency of power, but it's like if someone can jump up a building, they a woman shouldn't be able to push them against a credenza or whatever it was. Like it feels like a little inconsistent. Like the fights I have some issues with the fights. Not that her fighting style. I think it's awesome that Daredevil is this like well-trained like guy who's been doing ninja training his entire
Right.
life, and that Jess and Luke are just these brawlers who will just throw you across the room. It's just, I feel like the fights are edited a little inconsistently, and like the dubbing really bothers me.
Yeah, the dubbing
on
bothered me
fights.
these past couple episodes too. It's just like that's in a studio. That doesn't sound like it was in a house.
And it's like
No.
the camera's on her face and there's dialogue going on, and she's not, or her lips aren't moving, and it's like,
I didn't notice
yeah,
that
there are a
one.
couple times where she's like, "Leave me alone," but while she's like,
Really quickly, for those of you joining us in the middle of the show, we are talking about episodes 3 and 4 of Jessica Jones, and we are a no spoiler zone. We're a spoiler-free zone. We are watching the show as our after show goes on.
Yes.
We're going to be going 2 episodes by 2 episodes. So please, if you're in the chat, we haven't gotten any spoilers, but we do. There was a quiz, not a quiz, but a poll of who's seen all of the episodes so far, and quite a many people rose their hands. So just a reminder, we are spoiler-free, but please join us, have some fun as we continue these next episodes.
Our benefit and for yours.
Yeah.
Yes.
As we go through. And this seems like an appropriate time to thank all you guys for joining us again live, or the people who took the time to go onto iTunes and hit us with a review.
That's
If you
segue.
haven't heard the speech before, it's a big help to us if you can go onto iTunes, hit the subscribe button especially, but rate and review if you can. It only takes a second. You just have to write a quick little blurb and then write a review, and you'll get a shout out on the show. And writing those iTunes reviews helps us get guests on the show for this. We've had other guests on other great guests on other shows. Yeah, we had Gideon Emery, one of the guy who got his head just spoilered.
I was gonna say, how far are you going?
In Daredevil, and he came in to join us, and we're working on some stuff. Nothing confirmed yet, but some stuff is in the works.
Guys.
So, and those reviews help us lock those down. It helps us keep the lights on, because that helps other people find this show. Helps us show up on iTunes in the new and noteworthy and all that stuff. So some shout outs to the iTunes reviewers. Wet Rats says 5 stars, great team. What a smart bunch of folks on this view. I really enjoyed their observations on the craft that went into making the series. Sometimes these after shows are completely focused on character and plot, so it was a treat to hear such insightful comments on the way the show is filmed as well. And I think we're going to touch a little bit more on that later in this episode. Written Angel Marie says, AKA getting that much more out of the show. Once again, another great compendium to another amazing show. This panel is excellent, is enthusiastic and knowledgeable, which makes for a great show every time. If you missed something on your first viewing, these guys are almost always going to point out to you that little detail you missed. Thanks for another Amazeballs AfterBuzz.
Thank you.
I also wanted to touch, because Simpson is the first person that we've seen who's gotten away kind of without doing exactly what has been said.
Right.
Yeah.
When is Kilgrave going to turn it up and just start killing, or having every person that he uses kill themselves? Just so that he doesn't have another loose end for Jessica to find him
Do
again.
not know.
That
I guess
seems like something he would do.
Yeah.
He would have to know about
I was gonna say 'cause-
Will.
Yeah, and I feel like at this point, I feel like he probably knows that
I'm sure he
Simpson
will.
didn't kill himself, and if he doesn't know yet, he's gonna know
He's
soon.
gonna know soon.
There would be
Yeah.
something in the papers about a cop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who?
I mean, I think that's one of the things that Kilgrave does, but a trail of bodies is a pretty big red marker. Like, even if it's a bunch of suicides, if all of a sudden every person that he interacts with commits suicide, that's going to be a big kind of like thing going on. I'm just wondering when Kilgrave's going to tell all of our viewers to go on iTunes.
Oh God! If we could get Tenet and have him do that.
Oh man.
I was about to do the Jedi thing, but
Yeah,
no.
no.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's no lack of trying to get David Tennant in the studio.
There's never.
He's an incredibly busy man. Trust me, our guest relations person, Brianna, thank you for all your work on this, Brianna, is actively trying.
We've got
But
a refreshing.
I don't know if he'll be
email.
able to hop across the pond to join us.
Yeah.
As much as I would die of excitement. So with Trish, what do you guys think of the apology scene?
Oh, it was hard to watch.
Yeah.
It was rough.
Especially with the gun facing the screen in that split shot.
Oh.
That was just like, oh gosh, she could do it.
Are you
You
talking
didn't
about
know.
that apology?
Yeah. That kind of
I thought you
apology.
were talking about the on-air apology.
Oh, that
I
one?
was talking with the on-air.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, just the worst.
Yeah.
Like you.
When she started that apology and the on-air apology, and she introduced herself, and she had that long pause, I had a moment of being like, she's so broken, she's not even going to be able to say anything.
Yeah.
And of course, she did what she said afterwards. It just confirmed that she just had to confront this mistake that she'd made that almost cost her her life, especially because when she was initially making the statement against Kilgrave, you know, Jessica was physically came in and like threw her microphone out of the way, like really tried to get her to stop. And so I think there was a level of her coming to terms with the fact that Jessica was right.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of speaks to the Kilgrave does have this power.
Yeah.
But he is also, in general, without this power, a master manipulator. And is always trying to stack things the way he needs them to be. So without ever actually interacting with Trish, he has made her traumatized, and he is now controlling her without ever having to say one word to her. And I think it really kind of helps show the type of guy we're dealing with as a guy that is several steps ahead of everyone and really pushing and finding ways to control his space. And he's been doing it for years, probably since he was a child. And I think the things like telling the cop to kill himself, because he knows that the cop's not going to be able to live with the fact that he killed someone, that's going to bring him a lot of heat. But, you know, like the family that he's with, he doesn't need to do that because no one's going to believe, no one's going to do anything about it when it's just like a guy who's a lawyer or whatever. Like it's not as big, or maybe a lawyer's a bad choice. A chef. Like
Right.
it's not as big a deal. And then we also see that creepy room. We didn't talk about the creepy room at all.
Yeah.
The creepy room of Jessica photo.
Oh, jeez.
Why have a small shrine when you can have a room
A
of
whole
shrine?
room.
So obviously that also kind of shows that it's not just about him wanting to get vengeance on her or him making her suffer. Like he is obsessed with her. Like he is actively obsessed with Jessica. I mean, you don't print out all of those pictures
No.
and do multiple collages on your wall unless you are obsessed with a person. And I think it's probably because she's the one that got away. She's the one that he wasn't able to like get any closure with. He got hit by a bus before there was any closure with her.
So romantic.
So I think maybe from his point it kind of is romantic. That he had this relationship with this girl, and that she's the one that he couldn't control, and that she's the one that got away. I don't think it's romance the way we understand it, but like the way that he understands
Well,
it.
but
Yeah.
Jesse, it touches on what you had brought up last time in the last show, where if his power is something that he cannot turn off, and we don't know the
Right.
answer to that, but if that's what it is, then never being able to not do this to someone, because like imagine if
Right.
every time you ask someone, you were genuinely asking, hey, do you want to go out with me? And they're just, whether or not they want to, they are compelled
To say
yes.
say yes.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, it sounds great in theory. And Jerry sort of touched on that viewpoint when she's like, if only he was on our side, his gift.
Yes. That was such an interesting conversation.
Because as evil as the power is, there is a viewpoint, and I think this is true of any kind of power, or just in the
Right.
real world, any kind of just a skill that someone has. Like, no matter how good or bad it is,
Yeah.
it's all about how it's used, and you want to think like that power could be used for good.
You could
Yeah.
use it for anesthesia. Like you'd be like, you're not going to feel any pain,
Oh yeah.
and like now that person doesn't feel any pain.
Well, they don't want to feel any pain.
No, but I mean that's the way chemical anesthesia works anyway.
Yeah.
Is you are feeling pain, it's just your brain doesn't recognize it.
Yeah.
So like it would work the exact same way.
Yeah. It's interesting. I almost feel like that the way Kilgrave's power is, you almost have to work harder to use that power for good when you can just make people do whatever you say.
Yeah.
You know-
Well, it becomes a question of it does at a certain point. It doesn't matter what your intentions are.
Right.
Just forcing somebody to do it washes away any good you were trying to do.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of we saw backstory of Fisk and Daredevil. Do you think we'll see a time when Kilgrave was ever trying to use this for good?
I would love to get some backstory on Kilgrave.
I would like to get some backstory for sure.
Yeah,
Just
I
to know
think
if it's the comics
I would love to
version.
know Kilgrave's backstory.
Is his skin actually
And-
purple?
And he's wearing a lot of makeup.
He's just
but
told
I would
the
also,
entire world that they see his skin as normal color.
but I would also like to get, and I'm curious what you guys think about Trish's backstory. Because it seems like she went through some trauma as a
Yeah.
kid. Like, she's very jumpy. Like, she's clearly been through something.
And
that's-
definitely
there's
something
a
with her mom.
reason-
I was gonna
Yeah.
say
With her mom.
because when Jess came in the end of episode 2 and saw the bruises all over her arms, her reaction was, "Oh my God, is your mom back in town?"
Yeah.
So I think that her mother was definitely emotionally abusive, but also physically abusive.
Yeah, probably physically abusive. So we know that she was a child star
Yes.
in as the Patsy Walker,
Patsy
the
Walker.
Hellcat,
Yeah.
which we talked about last time, so we won't go into it again. But just like the story of Hellcat in the comic books, and we saw the guy, but she attacked that guy
Yes.
for putting, and like she was a little nervous because of the Kilgrave thing,
Yeah.
Right.
But
So-
it's all, but that's also has to be driven by something bigger from her past.
I'm betting that it was like her mom was kind of like one of those stereotypical like child star
Yeah.
moms where it's like she was making her, eat one meal a day so she could be skinny. And
she was
like,
a dance mom.
Yeah, she was like all of those kind of things like making
The Fight
her,
Club mom.
trying to make
Ooh.
her perfect.
Well, and we also
Yeah.
got a line where she said that the reason that she got it was some ruling or something involving something that Trish had done in the past, where she said, "Oh, I only got that because my mom blew every single one of the jurors."
Yeah.
So obviously,
That was
her
an award.
an award,
Yeah.
yeah. So
All the
obviously,
judges.
the judges,
Yeah.
yeah. So her mom was obviously a manipulative person. Again, I think she is kind of a dance mom, stage mom,
Yeah.
but that I think there's a level with Trish wherein she also recognizes that a lot of the sort of good fortune that has been afforded to her was not of her own doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think and we see that she is actively making an effort to be more in control of her own life.
No, that makes sense, especially after Jessica being such a protective figure in her life. This has been building up for years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow, I like that a lot.
And this,
Yeah.
and this, I think, is a show, and I think we're all kind of dancing around it, not dance momming around it, but I think, this show. I think if we're gonna like look for main thematic lines that are gonna be in the show, I think it's about abuse.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh, 100%.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I think like Kilgrave is the obvious abuse, but we've got drug abuse, we've got relationship abuse, we've got sibling abuse upstairs. Like it seems like this
Drug abuse?
drug
Yeah,
abuse,
drug
with
abuse. Which
Malcolm.
let's transition
Yeah.
before we run out of time to Malcolm and that crazy reveal at the end. So with Malcolm, we were sort of following along. Jessica used him in order to get the anesthesia.
Yeah.
My peanut butter friend.
I know.
And like this poor guy, like here's the interesting thing. So
Yeah.
Malcolm has been spying on Jessica.
Jess, yeah.
Do you guys think that it has been just that Kilgrave is regularly like because he couldn't be
it's-
checking up on him every 12 hours? I think he's supplying him with drugs.
Yeah,
right?
I think
Yeah.
it's the drug abuse.
I do
think
too.
I think it's because he can't just re-up him every 12 hours. He's supplying him with drugs to keep him on a string. I'm betting that before Malcolm was like a pediatrician or something like that.
He did look very clean in that photo with his mom, but not.
Yeah.
It wasn't a young photo. That was a recent
Right.
photo.
Like I bet he was like something like he worked at a sandwich shop or like something, and just like at one point Kilgrave was like, "Oh, this guy'll do," and was like, "You want to do drugs?" And then this guy started doing drugs. Like, "You want to only get drugs from me, and now in order to get them, you have to take pictures of Jess."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was little things like when Eastman is there, Gloria, or whatever, and she's like, he's been trying to open the door for 5 minutes, and you think in the moment,
Yeah.
oh, it's because he's drugged out, he's high, he
Yeah.
can't do it. But in retrospect, when I rewatched, I'm like, oh no, he's doing it because he wants to be there to know when Jessica gets home.
Yep.
And it just becomes super. It's messed up to another degree.
It had to have been recently because of that picture. It had to have been once Kilgrave was like after the whole kidney incident.
Yeah.
So it had to have been like only a couple months.
I agree.
But Jessica living in this downtrodden neighborhood.
He was just a college student that, like, I don't know. I like throwing out that he was really happy before this.
Yeah.
Because it makes me sad.
Working at a Witch.
Yeah.
His favorite one was a number 7.
Oh, which? Is that buffalo chicken?
So good.
So one of the things with just the production that I said we were going to talk about, I want to. Like each episode, I want to like sort of talk about like one of the aspects of production.
Yeah, sure.
Music.
The
I
music
thought
is
was
so
in this
good.
episode. In these 2 episodes, really sang to me, even more than the first 2.
Yeah.
There was there was a couple moments. There was like this deep. They intentionally brought in these deep cello notes.
Yeah.
It was even before they introduced the character who was playing
The cello.
The cello.
Yeah.
When she was
But
under
it made more sense like
power.
once you get that. It was under the scene where Will is giving Trish the gun that one just like it took it over in this. I just loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I you know what it is music, I think, in a series is really, really good when you don't notice it. When it's not glaringly obvious to you and you just feel more sort of engulfed in the scene that you're watching. Like that is the sign of a really, really good score.
Absolutely.
And that is absolutely happening in this.
Yeah, it's only when when it's
out.
like us we stop to think about
Yeah.
production.
When it adds another dimension. It's another way to tell a story. A lot of times, like, characters will have a theme. So, like, even though that character isn't there, if they're being talked about, like, that musical theme will start
come
getting
in.
played in.
Yeah.
And they do that on this show, and it's really satisfying to kind of listen and, like, that they've put so much work into this is, as a fan, like, it's really rewarding.
I'm personally having a freak out because I didn't put the cello thing together until just now. But that added in with the voyeuristic camera work, is a constant reminder that the presence of Kilgrave is always there and keeps growing and growing and growing in so many aspects of production, and that's scary.
It is, and it's just so incredible the way that they don't show him.
It's like the Jaws theme almost.
Yeah.
Jesus.
The other piece of music that I really noticed was the use of trumpet in these episodes, because they use them when she is being a PI,
Detective.
and it just like. It's like if you didn't feel like you were in a noir
You do that.
before, it's like they just like
Muted
That's sweet
trumpet.
jazz.
Yeah.
it's great, and like the opening, which we haven't really talked
Yeah,
about.
I was
but
gonna
I think
say, even just the opening theme.
We'll talk. We'll save the opening. We'll talk specifically about the opening theme next episode. We'll compare it to Daredevil and all that.
Yes.
One last thing before we wrap out.
Final
in,
thing.
in lieu of predictions, I know Mark, you've got another show to do.
That's
I've got to work that.
Yeah,
show
you're
before.
engineering that show.
But
okay,
there's
one of our
a
hosts is running
tiny
late.
little thing that like could be an Easter egg, might not be. When they're interviewing all the people, a Chinese man with glowing red eyes. Was that an Iron Fist? And I know that Danny Rand is traditionally a white character.
Yeah.
I've said for a while that I think that Danny Rand is the perfect opportunity to cast an Asian American in a major role.
Especially since there already is an Asian character that is basically has the same powers as Danny Rand in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what if it's him?
Like they might as well just combine those two
Into one
characters
character,
into
yeah.
one character. I mean, it could have been a hint at Danny Rand.
Because he does have glowing red eyes when he uses the Iron
when he
Fist,
has
right?
a fist that is like upon iron. Yeah, he
Yeah.
does have glowing red eyes.
I had to call it out because it just like I heard him like which by the way
Also, in Immortal Iron Fist, he does do some mind control with his like chi hand somehow.
but by the way they did confirm that we had Megan, our own Megan Salinas got an anonymous tip, but it's since been like public, so it was more cool when we got an anonymous tip hip.
Yeah.
That it's confirmed that Iron Fist will remain a Netflix series, not a movie.
I'm
Not
so
swapping with
excited.
Punisher.
Great. It's great.
All that. So let's wrap out and tell people where we can find us. We will be back 1 week from today because of the holiday. AfterBuzz is a little slowed down for the holidays and like some stuff. So we will be back next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to recap episodes 5 and 6. We'll be back for 5 and 6 next Wednesday, 3 p.m.
We have to wait a week to watch the.
I'm watching it.
We don't have to wait a week.
7 and 8.
That's December 2nd
Yes.
at 3 p.m. Okay, Jesse Klein.
Yeah, you can find me online at JessKlein1. And if you live in Los Angeles, I do live comedy all over the place. You can follow that on my website.
And I'm Emma Fife. You can follow me all over the internet at Emma Fife. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll know about everything that I do because I tweet a lot.
I'm the internet soapbox Mark. I'm still freaking out, and I realized subconsciously I put on a purple shirt today, and I'm sorry. Everybody, stay away. I don't know who I am or where I am right now, but you can, if you want to know where I am at any given moment, you can follow me on Twitter at soapbox Mark.
And I am Zach Wilson, aka that Zach Wilson, on Twitter and Instagram, and you can also find me here at AfterBuzz on a whole bunch of shows, but especially for you guys, Tuesdays with Mr. Jesse Klein on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and a whole bunch more. Find me on Twitter. Until next week, I'm Zach Wilson, and thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Sweet Christmas.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.